Hi again. I'm not going to say that the workshop is untidy, because people will say, no, it's not, it's very tidy, but actually it's dirty, and I have tidied up for this. But what I wanted to talk to you today about was recycling clay, because particularly us throwers produce a hell of a lot of slurry, so buckets full and bucketfuls of liquid clay, and you want to reuse it. So I was just going to talk you through my particular method for doing that. So what I do is I have a number of buckets on the go, which are at the outlet of the wheel. As the buckets get filled up, I push them to one side, and so I'm going to use today the bucket that's been sitting there longest. I'm going to take off the top the surplus water, because just having allowed it to sit, it's sedimented, so there's just some, very, very slightly polluted water, which I'm not going to try and recycle, because it will just make my mould extremely wet for a reclaim of clay that will be completely insignificant. So I'm just getting off as much water as I can. Now, what I use is a plaster of Paris mould that is now getting a little bit worn. It's been made to be not too thick, because it's actually very heavy once it's full of wet clay and it's damp itself. So I've used it, made it with layers of screw, which is a lovely word, which plasterers will know about, but it's the webbing that plasterers use in joints and things like that. It enables you to give it a sort of heart that's a bit of reinforcement within the plaster. This, however, is getting a little old, so in another recycling trick, I'm going to line it with an old T-shirt, and that, what I don't want is there to be any traces of plaster in my clay, because plaster doesn't fire well. It's a pretty disastrous thing to have in your clay. So here we go. So now, having lined my mould, I'm just going to pour in probably most of this bucket of clay. I bet you can hear next door's chickens loudly in the background. Unfortunately, the sun's not shining today. If it was, I'd be doing this outside, because in the warm weather, a little bit of wisteria leaf there. I'm just spreading that out. And now, if it was going to go outside, I would simply put another layer of probably recycled T-shirt on top of that, just to stop stray leaves and things blowing into it, or any other rubbish, pigeons landing on it or whatever. Okay. And in a moment, I'll show you how I incorporate the recycled clay once it's had a chance to dry out a bit and to rest in my normal clay mix.